Good afternoon, and today I'm going to take you down to the Jewish Quarter of Krakow and the real ghetto that was during the Second World War. But I'm going to start this video right here. Back in the day, Kazimierz, which is the Jewish Quarter, was founded in 1355, and it was a completely separate city to Krakow. Krakow on the north, Kazimierz to the south. And right here where I'm standing was the river. The river used to be here, but they redirected. This road is only 200 years old, and the river was redirected south. So instead of building beautiful bridges across the river like they have in Budapest to separate Buda and Pest, they decided to redirect the river instead of building a bridge and fill it in with concrete and roads. So that's the story, first story. But is now Kazimierz is now a district of Krakow and not a separate city. It's joined together. So let's head off down to the Jewish Quarter, and we'll give you some more history lessons down there. As I over the centuries, when the Jews were travelling around trying to find a home for themselves, they were rejected from every other country in Europe and pushed on. And Kazimierz the Great decided to build a city of their own, especially for the Jews, and invited them from all over Europe to come and live here and also elsewhere in Poland. And at its height, there were 3 million Jews living in Poland. At the start of the Second World War, when the Germans invaded Poland, and 6 days later they took over Krakow, and they moved all the Jews from the city of Krakow over down to here in Kazimierz. And there was, at one time, during the war, there was 68,000 Jews living in this 1 square kilometre of this area. And there we are, you can see here. And just behind me here, this building here behind me, this was once a fabrics warehouse where the Jews obviously made their money through fabrics. They also made money through finance and also through gold. So we're going to go over there shortly to see the oldest synagogue in Europe, which is no longer a synagogue. I'll explain why in a moment. One interesting fact that people may not know, well, people probably will know, but all around this area, all around, the German army erected barbed wire fencing all the way around before they built a wall to enclose anybody in here, so there was no escape. But during that time, there was a family who were too big to get through the barbed wire fencing to escape, but they had a young 8-year-old child who was small enough to get through the gap. So they said to him, "You go through the gap, we have to stay here. You run away, you run away." And that particular person later became the film director Roman Polanski. Now, Roman Polanski later on in life decided, I want to go and make a film about the ghetto and how the German army operated within the ghetto. But when he went to get the rights to the film, he was beaten by a certain Steven Spielberg, who had already arrived here to film, which was later become Schindler's List. Now, just behind me here, this wall here, there was a very large Jewish cemetery, and when the Nazis came, they smashed down all the gravestones, and they used the gravestones to build the wall which surrounded this area. And they told the Jewish that if you try to escape, this is how you will end up, as part of the wall. So obviously that frightened the life out of them, and they didn't try to escape. But this chap here, this is Jankowski. and he was famous because he got imprisoned here during 1941, and he found out what the hell was going on in the ghetto, and how he managed to escape was he faked a serious injury, and the German army put him in hospital. Obviously they thought, put him in hospital, he's not going to escape because he's injured. They put him in hospital, which was just outside the perimeter, and what did he do? He just got up and walked out. So he escaped all the way to England, and he tried to tell the Allies of what was going on here in the Jewish ghetto. Obviously nobody believed him. They had more important things during the war to deal with, and they kept telling him and kept telling him. He wrote books, he wrote documents, and then eventually, about 3 years later in 1944, when they discovered that he was actually true, that it was far too late. And he's the man who was responsible for letting the world know what was going on here in the Jewish ghetto. And he lived to a ripe old age of 89 years of age, in which he died in the United States. Oh no, let's cross over the road and have a look at this. Because up here, you will see there's a hotel here called Hotel Rubenstein. Now, Rubenstein, that was named after a young lady called Helena Rubenstein. And she didn't live in the hotel there. Her house was that greenhouse just there. And she founded the world's first cosmetics firm rather. And she lived to a ripe old age of 90, I think, and she died in the United States as the richest woman in the world. So it was down to her that you have all the facial creams to make yourself beautiful and younger, or even older if you like. She created all those. So instead of having a hotel there, it created a hotel almost next door in honour of her name. So we're going to go down here now and have a look at the oldest synagogue in Europe. Okay, and just behind me here was the oldest synagogue in Europe. It was built in 1492. It was built, and it was built as a fortified fortress synagogue. After the Mongols destroyed Krakow, they built this so it could not be penetrated. But unfortunately, when the German army came in, they took it over, and it was closed as a synagogue, and it was used as a weapons storage unit for the German armed forces. So we can go in, but I don't think I will go in and film. But you can go in and have a look. It's now a museum. It's no longer a synagogue. But there are 7 other synagogues within this area of Kazimierz. And we're going to head down and see some other interesting facts before we head into the real ghetto of Krakow, which is not actually here. People confuse this to be the ghetto, which is not. This was the Jewish Quarter. The ghetto is on the other side of the river, where the German army cleared this area out. As I say before, during the start of the war, there were 68,000 people, Jews, living here, of which 65,000 were taken to Auschwitz and obviously instantly killed. Only 3,000 remain. Obviously they died. Nowadays there is only 300 Jews living here in Kazimierz. Now in 1941, when the German army evicted all the Jews from over there in Kazimierz, he said, you're going to a new home, we've built a new town for you, it's beautiful, bring all your belongings, grab everything you have a few minutes and get over here. And at the time there was only one bridge across the river, and it was that blue bridge over there. So they crossed over, and with all their belongings stacked up in vans, cars, or even carrying them themselves. And when the Jews crossed the river into this new homeland, the German army convinced them there would be a better life for them. And to convince them, the first building they saw was this yellow building behind me, which was the employment office. Yeah, and next door, the pink building, that was the hospital. So when they crossed over, the German army instructed the guy who ran the office, which was Schultz, a German officer, to send people to the labour camp to work for them on their war front, to create weapons, all sorts of things. I've got my words there then. But anyway, he kept sending these Jews to the labour camp daily, but they would never return. And he said to them, well, he kept asking the German army, why are these people not coming back? You're going to the ghetto, you're going to the labour camp, but there's nobody coming back. So they just ignored him and never gave him any thought at all. And it was after a while, they kept saying, the German army kept saying to Schultz, we need more men, we need more people, send them to the labour camp. But he refused. And he said, no, hang on, what are you doing? Where are they going? And after a few weeks, they got fed up with him. He said, you're a German officer. If you don't send the Jews, then basically you are helping the Jews. Yeah. So they brought him out onto the street, and in front of everybody, they shot him in the head. You do not disobey German orders. You helping the Jews, that is not on. So he was executed on the spot in front of everybody. So we're going to go around the corner now, and there's another poignant memorial we need to discuss and show you. Okay, right, I've come to this square here, and you will notice some chairs all around. I will come to that in a moment. But when the Jews were coming over here to convince them even more, the German army decided to bring a pharmacist over and open a pharmacy. And the pharmacy was up building just there on the corner. So when they came in, they saw the employment office, a hospital, and there's a bakery down there, which is still here to this day, where the German army controlled the rations of bread that were distributed, because basically they were starving all the Jews here. And when they got here, the Jews, they quickly realised that there was no escape from here at all, because the whole area, 1 kilometre all the way around, a brick wall was erected, and literally there was no escape. The only way they got out was when they were sent to Auschwitz to be executed. And there's some of these original houses here. There's some new buildings here, but an example of this house here, and this is original. And these windows up here, double windows, this is one room. And in one room there would be up to 50 to 55 people living in one room. They were crammed in. And the German army, they decided, well, not the German army, it was the secret police ran this area. And that was their building there. Just there, that was their building. See, it's got 1941 to 1943 on the top, which is when they controlled this area before they were taken to Auschwitz. So they had a whole view of the area and control of the area. And every day they would storm into these houses, the police, and gather up children, the elderly, disabled, gays, anyone that didn't fit the bill that would be able to work. They would bring them into the square and shoot them in the head. When they were dragged out, they knew they were going to be killed, but there was nothing they could do. And they would all be shot in the head. Now, another story was to protect the children. Some of the parents some of these houses, they used to hide the children up in the attic or in the basement. And obviously children being children, they would start crying because they didn't know what was going on. So to stop them crying, the pharmacist came up with a genius plan to give them tranquilizers, to put them to sleep, so they would sleep all day and the Germans would not know there was any children left in these buildings. And also what the pharmacist came up with a genius idea was cosmetics, to make the elderly look a lot younger. So when they dragged what they thought were elderly people out onto this square, They looked at their papers, and for example, a guy would be, according to his papers, he would be 79 years of age. And they looked at him and said, well, are you sure you're 79? He said, no, I'm 49. Right, oh, right, okay, go back to your house. So I sent him back to know. It was a genius idea, but the Germans got wind of it. After quite a while, they got wind of it and they ended up shooting him anyway. These chairs, a poignant reminder, these were erected a few decades later after the war, and it was to remember when the Jews brought all their belongings over, the one thing that they could carry that was obviously a welcome addition to their easier life was a chair, and they bring chairs over, so somewhere to sit on. And this was a poignant reminder of all the people that were shot in this square. But you will notice all the chairs are pointing in one direction, and that is towards Israel. But there was one particular chair that is pointing in the opposite direction, which is this one here. I'm sorry about that, I've got the van in the way. This chair here is pointing towards the labour camp, or the death camp, as it was later be known. So that's the story of these chairs, a poignant reminder of what went on in this square. So now we're going to go down the labour camp. The labour camp was just up that road and around the corner. But I'm going to take you down to that road there, to where Oskar Schindler had his factory, and he saved thousands or hundreds of Jews from persecution by employing them there and giving them extra rations of food to make them work harder, because if they didn't eat, they couldn't have the energy to work. But as will later become known, the secret police couldn't really operate and control every single person living in this area. So the German army said, well, it's your problem, you have to sort it out. So the German police, the secret police, got some Jews who, they said to the Jews, if you want extra rations of food, then you work with us and spy on who's telling who, or what escape routes, or who's hiding where. So they would grass on their other Jews in order to get food to save themselves and their family. And it was a real terrible thing what the Germans did, but it's what they have to do to survive. So anyway, let's go down that road and have a look at Schindler's factory. Okay, just a short walk from that square, just come under the railway underpass to the other side of the railway lines, and just behind me here was Oskar Schindler's enamel factory, where he employed up to 1,000 people during the war, not all at one time, to help him produce enamel and ceramics and things, and he saved them all from persecution. You can go inside, but as you can see behind me, the queue is quite long, so I don't like queuing up for anything, so I'm not going to queue up to go in there. I may go in there one day if I come early enough before the crowds, but that's where the Oskar Schindler factory is, and I've been told it is probably the best museum to visit in the whole of Krakow. So let's go back and I'll show you some other parts of Kazimierz and the ghetto area, probably during and after the war ended. Now, when Kazimierz the Great built this city south of Krakow, he wanted to build a massive Gothic cathedral in his own style, but it wasn't started until after his death. But it all changed after his death, as it was built in an Italian Renaissance style, against his wishes. But look at it, it is a magnificent building. And I'm going to take you inside quickly and show you a magnificent artwork inside, and then we'll go up the road and just finish the video just up there. So let's have a look inside. magnificent building, look at that. Right. Is the entrance here or is it round the other side? Don't know. Right, we've just come inside the church, the cathedral now, and look at this. Magnificent. I can't speak. It's magnificent. Gold everywhere. Look. Such a beautiful building. Look. Man. So we're back in the heart of Kazimierz now, and when the war ended, there were literally no Jews left in this area at all. They'd all been gone, executed, and the whole city here was taken over by gangs who ruled the area for decades. And it was only in 1993 when Steven Spielberg came here to film Schindler's List. Most of it was actually filmed here on location in Kazimierz and in the ghetto where we've just been. So I'm going to take you through this little alleyway here, and I'll show you some things in here. There's a scene in the film which you may recognise. Come through this archway. See all these buildings up here is where the Jews were living, and all up here, all along here. And when the German army evicted them all and sent them to Auschwitz, they had literally seconds to pack a suitcase with all their belongings and get the hell out. And what was left in the German army, as you'll see in the film of Schindler's List, Germany went up in room for room for room and got everything and just chucked it all over the balcony. There's a scene in the film where you will see that. We come down here, and remember I was telling you over in the ghetto about the pharmacist helping certain Jews, and this picture's on the wall here, and this is the pharmacist himself. He got away with it for quite a while, and then German army captured him. And here, these steps, you'll see a lady running away from the army, and she hid under these steps here and in this doorway, got in this doorway and hid away from the army, and she was never captured. So all these houses were all where the Jews lived. So I'm just going to take you around the corner now and finish off the video there with another story of during and after the war. So we've just come around the corner now, and we've come down to this square here. I'll come to what the square is like nowadays in just a moment. Keep falling down potholes, huh? But this centre building here, this was formerly a meat market, and during the war this was a storage area for the Germans. All the food that came into the area, the Germans stored it all in here, and obviously they had all the food for themselves and just gave the Jews minimal rations, just barely enough to make them survive so they can get the work done that the Germans required. But then after the war, in 1945, it was shut down, and then obviously decades later, it's been reopened as a market. And as you will see all around me, there's street food stalls, restaurants, all around this area. And nowadays, this, in the evening, this area is the most vibrant area for nightlife, restaurants, etc. for local Polish people. And if you want real Polish food, this is the area to come to. Look at all these foods here, stalls. There's Polish restaurants all over the place and bars. Very friendly area. It's open every day of the week, and this is one of my favourite bars here, the Vodka and Beer House. Piwa is beer in the Polish. So I hope you enjoyed that history lesson of the war, and I shall finish the video right here and go back and edit it. If there's anything I've missed, or if there's anything you feel is incorrect what I've said, I have done a heck of a lot of research for this video, and I feel like everything I've told you is true facts. So until next time, ciao for now, I'll catch you later.